get with this or you can get with that. You can get with this or you can get with that.
8:22, welcome back to your Monday morning. Now that our civic election has been completed, we have a referendum to look forward to when it comes to electoral reform. Max Cameron, poli-sci professor over at UBC, joining us live in studio. Welcome.
Thank you.
So there's a mail-out happening. Let's go through what the options are, because we're going to be receiving some ballot questions that are important about our system.
Well, the first question is, do you favor proportional representation or do you want to keep the current system? Regardless of your answer to that, there are then three options that you have the opportunity to rank.
Okay, and before we get to those three options, proportional representation, can you give us a definition of what that flavor is and how it's different from the current first-past-the-post we have?
Sure. The current system, first-past-the-post, is a winner-take-all system. Whoever wins the most votes in each riding carries the seat. Under proportional representation, the overall percentage of the vote for a given party is reflected in the percentage of seats that they win in the legislature.
Okay, and in that mail-in referendum, we have a photo of what you're going to see of what you receive. So that's question one. That's the easy part.
That's the easy part.
Then we get to part two of, if you're choosing proportional representation, there are three options on this, and we only have a short period of time, but let's start with the dual-member proportional option. How does this change the current system?
Well, what dual member does is it combines ridings, couples up ridings across the province. So when the voter goes into the polling station, they will have the opportunity to mark an X on a ballot that will indicate for each party their primary and their secondary candidate if they wish to run them. The first candidate is chosen the same way as under first past the post. Whoever is the plurality winner carries that seat. The second seats, however, are allocated by proportional representation based on the overall performance of the party province-wide.
So if you have 40% of the popular vote, that means you're going to have 40% of those seats in the legislature.
That's exactly right.
Okay, and is that going to change the number of seats in the legislature at all?
None of these systems will change the number of seats dramatically. We will have anywhere between 87, the current number, and about 95 seats.
Okay, and where has this, the dual-member proportional system, where has this worked well around the world?
So this is one of the systems that has been recently invented. It was created by a graduate student at the University of Alberta. It's not actually been tried anywhere.
Okay, so let's go to the next option then. Mixed member, this one's had success worldwide. Tell us about how this one works.
Yes, mixed member was invented in Germany. It's been used in New Zealand and Scotland and in other jurisdictions. Essentially, this retains first past the post, except with slightly larger ridings. But there are also regional groupings of MLAs. These are called top-up MLAs. So what happens is you, again, look at the overall percentage of the vote that each party won, and if there is a discrepancy between that and what they won in the individual ridings, their numbers are topped up with regional seats to guarantee proportionality.
And I mean, there's a great complexity as you're describing this, and I was looking at these videos on the weekend that you're looking at right now. It takes a while to absorb it, and you know, when we talk about voter turnout in the city of Vancouver, do you think we will get a big reaction? This is a mail-in referendum from people saying which way they want to go on this, given the complexity?
These are complicated. I think we've got a good voters guide which voters can look at that's been mailed out by Elections BC. And there's additional information. If you want, you can go to the campaigns both for and against, as well as the Attorney General's report. If you actually look at the ballots, they're not that complicated. So, for example, under mixed member proportional, you would have two votes. You would vote for your local candidate, but you also have a party vote. The ballot itself is reasonably simple. So, of course, there are things that we don't know. We don't know, for example, whether we will have open list or closed lists. If you have open lists, then when you mark your party preference, you might actually be able to choose the individual candidate you support as well. So there are a lot of things that haven't yet been determined, and that will be worked out subsequently by a legislative committee.
Okay, and if you're still following, there's one more option for proportional representation. Tell us about option number 3 here.
So the third option uses mixed member proportional, MMP, the system that we just talked about in the rural areas. But in the urban areas where we have dense concentrations of people, we would create larger multi-member districts, and in those districts, parties would be given the option of running a number of candidates. And so the voter, when the voters go into the polling station, they're going to be confronted by a quite different ballot than what we're accustomed to, one that lists all of the candidates that all of the parties and independents are running. And then the voter, instead of just marking an X by a name or by a party, the voter can actually rank these candidates, and they can rank as many as they like. And then what happens is there's a quota that's set you have to meet in order to win a seat. Candidates who exceed that quota, their excess votes are redistributed to the other candidates based on the second and third preferences and so forth. The weaker candidates are dropped off. Their votes are also redistributed until you complete the quota. So it is a system that is new. It has been used in Ireland for over a century. It's been used in the upper house in Australia. It gets us proportionality without massive ridings, but it would be a shift toward a new system for us, at least in the urban areas.
Out of the three that we see on screen, what do you like as the potential to help our system progress?
My own view is that they are all good systems. Each one of them has advantages. I personally like MMP just because it has been used in Germany, Scotland, New Zealand. It works well, so we have a bit of a sense of what the bugs might be, and if we had problems, we could turn to those jurisdictions and see how they've dealt with them. On the other hand, I think that the dual-member proportional, in some respects, that's the system that's most similar to our current first-past-the-post system. It requires minimal changes. It just simply requires that we couple up existing districts, and yet you get a high level of proportionality with these binomial districts. The third system may be the most complicated to understand, but the fact is it's been designed for our specific geography and for our political culture. I'm not entirely thrilled with the idea of having two quite different electoral systems within a single jurisdiction, though there are precedents for that. I think it's a good system too, but I think my own preference would, at this point, I still haven't entirely decided, but I think probably MMP.
MMP's leading the way. Well, the guide is an excellent resource. Obviously, the website for Elections BC will help out as well. Max, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
I'm going to watch this segment about 100 times and try and understand and absorb everything you just gave us. Listen, we'll take a break.